Layla Abdelhamid. I'm the Director of Partnerships for the Center of Excellence for Water project at the American University in Cairo, and I'll be moderating the session today. Today's panel discussion is a showcase of how an environmentally and socially conscious visionary idea has successfully become an investable project on the ground today, utilizing and applying clean tech in a water, energy, food nexus model to create a more enabling and sustainable environment for small and medium farmers. Excuse me. This is the first WEF Nexus foreign direct investment project of its kind in Egypt, and it is proof that with such synergetic partnerships, in this case led by Engazaat, an Egyptian family-led company and a leader in WEF investment development with a strong social entrepreneurship compass, can achieve in areas of need, not only in Egypt, but ultimately in Africa and the world, helping small and medium-sized farmers with critical issues such as access to safe, clean water, food security, and efficient, sustainable energy. We'll start the session today with a brief video as a segue into our panel discussion, and then a brief presentation by Mr. Mohammed Demerdash, and then I'll introduce our esteemed panelists, and we'll start the panel discussion. Thank you.
والنهاردة وبعد منافسة قوية شارك فيها أكثر من 6000 مشروع من 27 محافظة مصرية، وتأهل منهم 162 مشروع للمرحلة النهائية. وصل أفضل 18 مشروع للمراكز الثلاثة الأولى في كل فئة من فئات المبادرة علشان يمثلوا مصر في مؤتمر الأطراف لاتفاقيات الأمم المتحدة الإطارية لتغير المناخ COP 27.
فكره المشروع الرئيسيه ان احنا بنحاول ان احنا نانيبل او ان احنا ندعم المزارع المتوسط والصغير في مصر. الفكره احنا بنطلع اقل تكلفه للمتر مكعب الميه للمزارع المصري من خلال ان احنا حطينا نظم ضخ حديثه ونظم ري حديثه. كل الكلام ده مرتبط بنظم اداره ذكيه للمرافق. ده بالنسبه لنا بيئيا بيتماس مع اجنده المناخ في فكره ايقاف التدهور البيئي الخاص بعمليه المناخ.
We'll start with a brief presentation by Mr. Mohammed Demerdash, co-founder and CEO of Engazaat Development.
Let me first start with thanking Ms. Pakinam Kafafi for being here, Mr. Hisham El-Khazindar from Qalaa Holdings for being here, and our esteemed guest, Rada, and everybody. It's a great pleasure to introduce the SAVE Alliance, Mr. Terje, Mr. Yassin, Mr. Jonas, and all the team from Azelio that made this all the way all over more than 3 years of developments until we are here right now. Let me start just with a brief introduction about us, about Engazaat and our portfolio so far, and then let's dip right away to the core of the presentation of trying to answer how can we enable small and medium-sized farmers, those who create most of the value and gets least of the returns. So for Engazaat, we are established in 2011. We're now for 11 years in operations with a portfolio of 63 megawatts between implementations and developments. We pump in and operate more than 50 million cubic meters of water per year, and with a pipeline of 350 megawatts of pipeline for solar power. We consider that we are one of the very early companies into full-scale solar water utility development, operation, and implementation. And let's get to the challenge itself. Before that, just say some very basic facts, that agriculture makes 24% of the labor force in Egypt, and that is one of the biggest employers as a sector. More, 90% of this is for small farmers. Okay, so the food production process is on the shoulders of those guys. 65%, Egypt imports 65% of its main food staple, and that is causing lots of pressure with currency and all related matters. And agriculture sector represents more than 80% of the water consumption. So put this side by side, that 95% of the potential arable lands of Egypt is off-grid. It's all desert and desert reclamation. Put this all together and let's see what is sustainable, what does sustainable agriculture means. It's practically tackling all these very points at one shot. So we are talking about food security, water security, and employment. And the mission, the endeavor that we were in was simply how to democratize sustainable agriculture and open up this huge potential and enable those small farmers to do what they do best. So we'll start with some very preliminary and basic assumptions, that sustainable agriculture simply means, or an integral part for it is sustainable clean tech technology, sustainable clean tech infrastructure. That's a very primal assumption. The second one is basically that sustainable clean tech infrastructure is an enablement for producing food in good quality, zero emissions, and least water footprint. So that's a basic definition that we want to see before we got deeper into more of explanations. The third is that with the rising costs of energy, that had for the first time ever put in Egypt something that's called economics of water, cost of water, because before that, the River Nile was flowing, the sun was growing, and everything was subsidized. Now, there is a cost of water, and there is a return on investment of water that is now being new to all the landscape, okay? So these very basic assumptions had moved sustainable agriculture and sustainability generally from the luxury it used to be 10 years ago to the inevitable it is right now. Okay, so it does not work anyways. It is sustainability in the format of the environmental impact, social impact, and economic impact. So the challenge basically is that the demand is really high from all these numbers and beyond that, and the technology is there in the world, whether it's Three versus Moses, or solar power, or storage systems. But the problem simply is in the dissemination of this technology to the mainstream market. There is a big gap between the demand and the application. And that's what we try to do. These are the major challenges that hinders that. It's high capital expense, poor bankability, technical barriers, lack of knowledge, and poor governance of the agriculture process. So that is basically the problem. So we try to enable those guys who actually provides most of the value on the ground. So what is Engazaat is all about at this point in time is that we design the plants, the combined plants, solar plus water, we finance it, we build it, we own it, we operate it to deliver at the end of the value chain water and energy as a service. That is the mission that we wanted to deliver at the end of the value chain, releasing all the capex burdens from their shoulders, all the operational and technical and sophistication of operating such a sophisticated infrastructure, and to enable on buy now, pay later basis. Just they buy what they consume. And here we started the SAVE Alliance. The SAVE Alliance was originally an idea. It looked insane at the time, 4 years ago, with all our partners, but now it's becoming a reality, where we have established an investment structure, impact investment structure, with partners from Norway, Sweden, and France. And that is basically to develop a solar water plant to sell water and energy as a service at the end of the value chain in Moghra location, and that is becoming investable and economically viable with so many applications that we've done all along the process of development to reach this very stage. So that is basically the project, the new project that we are launching right now. That is Moghra location. It's in the Western Desert, 60 kilometers off Alamein. And it's an off-grid community surrounded with 25,000 small farmers on a surface area of 300,000 acres of land. All had both their lands, and they are not able to develop it, and they are risking a confiscation of the lands if they did not comply. And that's for sure a big social problem, and everybody's trying to help. The government is supporting, but there is no real solution on the ground. So what we try to do here is that we designed a central power plant on energy storage systems led by Azelio that provides power 24/7 on 13 hours, and that would enable more economics to power up a desalination system that is the biggest in Africa so far, with 2,000 meter cube of desalinated brackish water to irrigate 230 acres of open field irrigation. And that had to have a brine management system to tackle the environmental impact of the desalination and to deal with it in an environmentally friendly way, not to destroy the aquifer itself. This is connected to a smart irrigation systems. The smart irrigation systems downsize their use of water than less than 50% at least. Okay, if we did not add more solutions. So the whole process runs day and night. We had to enable lots of IT infrastructure because you cannot manage what you cannot measure, actually. So we have to measure every single thing all the way, and to manage the water production process and the water consumption process. So that's basically the situation. It's all technical, connected to the IoT and the weather stations and stuff like that, so that we make the best out of it in terms of efficiency. That's the promise: zero capex, zero technical burden, efficiency, and zero emissions. When we've done that, we believe that we had two byproducts along the process that is integral to develop sustainable agriculture. One is that we have to enable good governance for the agro production, because if we don't have it, there is nothing. And I will give you an example. Usually, most of the agro reclamations happens on rental basis. Some good investor goes to rent the land 3-4 years, make the production, and leave. When he leaves the land, there is no real good governance in the sense of that crops has to play together in a certain way. So if we do potato for this year, then we have to counteract this with corn, let's say, for the next year. If this doesn't happen, he will leave the land that is depleted, and there is no governance with that. There's nothing that enforced that to happen. He's just a rentee. He got his contract and he left. So governance is an integral part to maintain sustainability, and sustainability equals economics. And the second thing is, another byproduct for the process by managing the central power plant and water plant is dissemination of agro-knowledge. So we have to deliver a lot of knowledge into how to do it for small farmers until they're actually done. I would wrap up here, but to do this and to reach this model with this very high risk profile kind of off-taker at the end of the chain. So it's a $7 million investment, and it has to make good returns, and it has to be sustainable, and has to be feasible. So for this to happen, we work broadly on two main challenges. Number one is to de-risk this portfolio through enablement of technology, through social innovation to cluster and to create economies of scale. And on the other side of things, we worked on the efficiency side of the story, so that the meter cube of water, the kilowatt hour of energy is at least to enable agronomical returns over their agro production. That's basically what we kind of anticipated of the size of such a market in Egypt. We are talking about a universe of around 8 gigawatts, at least, of renewable energy demands in such a big market that consumes like 95% of the arable lands, more than 30 billion cubic meters of water a year up there that is possible to harvest, and approximate investment cost of around $20 billion US. That's basically the rough estimate of our studies of how the market should look like in this area. We are launching here 2 projects. Actually, we are celebrating the version 1 of such an implementation in Dakhla, in Wadi Jadid, and that's the award winner with the Prime Ministry and Dr. Mahmoud Muhyiddin, the champion of the COP. And now we are launching the second generation on a new business model, on water as a service business model in Moghra. The overall portfolio is around $70 million. This was financed with the Agriculture Bank of Egypt, whom we thank very much for believing in the concept and did what they did. And now we are doing it with a multilateral impact investment for the first time, or maybe for the early times for WEF Nexus business. That's some renders of the concept in Wadi Jadid, and these are the main pictures that's happening right now in commercial operations. We utilize the top-notch technology, so we are tier 1 partners to Valmont Technologies, to Grumfus, that's the #1 pivot systems, the #1 pumping systems, and so on. And here we are. So to do that, that's save generation 1, save generation 2 with a new business model and new, more sophisticated kind of technologies. And now we are ahead of structuring a bigger impact of that and bigger scale for that. And when we do that, we are discussing some sort of tackling more of 10 plus SDGs: hunger, poverty, access to clean water, and access to clean energy. So with that, we believe in triple P structure. That's the best way to do it to the next level. And for sure, we'll enable this to understand more from Hisham and from Paki how would this go and how do they think about it. That's some rough figures about the next areas that we are actually now monitoring in Toshka, in Moghra, in Siwa, and these are the areas the potential areas that we are targeting as we speak. And that's a very interesting number that I've received today from Terje. And actually, it was a very interesting article. It's the volume of groundwater in Africa is 20 times that of rivers and lakes. In sub-Saharan Africa, less than 5% of the available groundwater is being used, actually. That's a Financial Times article, actually, as the sources, according to the African Ministers' Council of Water. They anticipated the case of Uganda in doubling the investment in groundwater development in Uganda might uplift 500,000 people out of poverty and take agriculture GDP to more than 7%. Yeah, I mean, I will wrap up with this. The social impact, the environmental impact, we are discussing resilience, mitigation, and adaptation for small farmers. And with the bigger impact, the bigger the size of what we are trying to do. Yeah. These are our partners. I thank you very much, Azelio, Mascara, Empower, Chint, AUC for being the consultant for the environmental and social studies, and we will handle that. Daltex for believing in what we're doing and off-taking the agro-production. Al-Wadi Jadid Governorate, Al-Bank al-Zira'i al-Masri, Muzaira, Arif al-Masri, and all our technology providers. I thank you very much, and I would love to start the talk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed Demerdash, co-founder and CEO of Engazaat. I would like to invite our panelists to the stage. We will start our panel discussion, and then we will wrap up our session with Q&A. I would like to start by introducing our panelists. Thank you, Mohammed. Introducing you again. Mohammed Demerdash, co-founder and CEO of Engazaat. Ms. Pakinam Kafafi, CEO of TAQA Arabia. Mr. Hisham El-Khazindar, co-founder and managing director of Qalaa Holdings. Mr. Terje Osmundsen, founder and CEO of Empower New Energy. Mr. Jonas Wallmander, president and CEO of Azelio. Mr. Yassin, Egypt Country Director for Chint Electrics. And last but not least, Dr. Essam Shaban, Chief of Party for the Center of Access for Water, USAID funded project at the American University in Cairo, and Associate Professor at AUC. I would like to start by hearing from Pakinam, just your reflections on Mohammed's presentation, and you'd like to tell us a little bit about TAQA's new endeavors in water. Thank you.
Hello? Hello? I'm gonna from this, it's easier for me, okay? Muhammad's presentation is amazing actually. Yani, after this panel, we need to talk. We can make a lot of partnerships together, I think. I think being one of the leading private sector in energy distribution, TAQA Arabia has been thinking of the water and project of water for years. Actually, at the beginning when we established 2006, and Hisham can say because he's the founder, it was TAQA Arabia for electricity and water. And then at that time, there was no awareness of water, scarcity and the need. So we focused in generation and distribution of power and gas. In 2021, which is last year, we had the decision that we need to be involved in water for 3 reasons. Reason number 1 was the scarcity of water in Egypt and the need and the regulation of no water for the coasts, most of the industrial, and the availability of it. Number 2, the integration. Operation cost of water, 65% is electricity. And since we are going into green and TAQA is determined to be net zero 2050 and we're in the IRENA Alliance, we saw that would be an excellent approach to make our solar panels, getting it with the desalination water. And number 3, we always cater our clients with whatever they want. So our clients, they trust us. We provide them with gas, with power, with renewable. So they asked us why you're not involved in water? So, and that was the decision. Currently, we have 5 or 6 clients operating. One of the things I'm so proud of, already Muhammad did it, that 6 months from now, we're going to have our 3,000 meter per day water with renewable, and it's in Suma Bay. Everybody loves Suma Bay, so Suma Bay will be green water and green electricity.
So you'll beat us now in size, huh?
No, it's not a big. I believe that the market needs every single one, and we have to all collaborate together. The suppliers, the developers, and the finance, as you said. As everybody is concentrating in the financing the renewable, it has to be in water too. Definitely, Yani, because it's a need all over the world. It's not Egypt only. And I have to stop talking to give all the panelists time to talk.
Thank you, Pat. Good afternoon. Let me start by saying it's an honor to be part of this panel. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to the audience listening to us today. And I want to start by congratulating you, Mohammed, and saluting you for the project. Mabouk, very impressive. Looking forward beyond Dakhla to the project. And as Pakinam said, I think that on the TAQA side, there is a lot of scope for collaboration. And an immediate one that comes to mind, frankly, is even in your existing project in Dakhla, where there's a combination of solar with diesel, as a source of power for the nighttime periods. TAQA can add value in terms of replacing that diesel with LNG. Natural gas, LNG. Exactly, LNG or CNG. And you've done a fantastic project. Hopefully, we can help make it slightly even better, as well as collaborating on future ones.
It was an honor, Hisham. Thank you very much.
And I want to react to the presentation from our perspective as Qalaa, not only as investors in TAQA on the solar renewable side, but also as owners of Dina Farms. And Dina Farms is the largest dairy farm in Egypt and in Africa. We own a herd of 15,000 milk-producing cows, over 10,000 acres, also relying on groundwater, on the Cairo-Alexandria Desert Road. This is a business that we've developed and grown significantly over the course of the almost 15 years since we've owned it and built it now. And 2 years ago, we introduced through a partnership between Dina Farms and TAQA, so transformed Dina Farms' energy supply to become solar-based as well. What I take away from our experience that I think bears on what you presented, Mohammed, is a couple of thoughts. One, in my mind, the solution that you've come up with is a brilliant solution in terms of solving for scale vis-a-vis small farmers when it comes to water and ultimately energy, given that this water is groundwater that relies on cheap energy. And you touch on a very important point. Farming, agriculture is not easy, right? Whether you're a small farmer or a large farmer, there's a reason why even in developed economies, the number of people working in farming is going down. There's a reason why in the EU or in the US there is significant subsidies going to farmers. This is not as strategic and as important of a sector as this is. This is not an easy sector. And the key driver of success in this sector is scale and efficiency. And scale and efficiency can be achieved when you're operating on a 10,000 acre level, on a 20,000 acre level. The question when it comes to small and medium-sized farmers is how do you pass on that scale and that efficiency for owners of much smaller plots of lands, whether it's half an acre, 1 acre, or 10 acres. And the challenge I want to pose, Mohammed, to you as you think of phase 2 and phase 3 of the project is I would argue that part of resolving this efficiency, the scale and efficiency problem, the core part of it has to do with water price and energy price. Absolutely, and I think the solution for that, as you pointed out, as we've tried firsthand ourselves with Dina, has to come with clean, renewable energy as part of the mix. But it's not enough, I would argue, to have cheap water. Cheap water is an essential part of the puzzle, but there's other parts of the puzzle. Another part is how to increase productivity. And increasing productivity is directly related to R&D, the kind of seeds, crops, crop rotation. So the whole in addition to the clean tech side associated with the cheapest possible and the most efficient possible water and energy, the second element that needs to be looked at is the agri-tech side associated with how to maximize yields, how to maximize productivity. At Dina Farms, our cows produce each around 34 kilograms of milk a day. That's twice the average production in Egypt. That's by global standards, that's a very, very high number. The challenge is, how do we translate that level of productivity when it comes to dairy, or the kind of yields that we get on some of the corn silage that we produce, or some of the feeds that we produce? How to get small and medium size, how to essentially replicate a structure similar to what you've done with the clean tech side. So solving for scale amongst a small group of, a fragmented group of farmers, how to solve for this element as well, and be able to provide small and medium-sized farmers with the know-how and the technology to allow them to get to the yields that they need. The third piece of the puzzle that needs to be solved is around supply chains. A big part of the challenge for smaller producers in Egypt and other parts of Africa is the number of hands, the number of steps in the value chain. And the farmer ends up selling to a trader who resells to a bigger trader, who resells to an exporter, who aggregates. And when you look at the differential between the income that the farmer gets on his crop versus the value of that crop when it's ultimately sold to the end consumer, the majority of that value chain is captured by other elements. So I think those are the three elements of the puzzle we need to reflect on. Again, I applaud you on the success on the first part of the piece. Inshallah, the challenge is how to tackle the second and the third part. And the question that I ask myself is, how do we, as a large-scale agri-producer, how can we benefit small and medium-sized farmers while benefiting ourselves? What is the right structure to enable this transfer of technology and of know-how to enable the more efficient supply chain process so that the farmer, so that the small farmer gets a bigger share of value and moves beyond subsistence, basic needs to actually feeding their community and feeding the world, as per the title of the session. That's the challenge that we need to work on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pakinam and Hisham, for the very insightful reflections. And there's certainly enough room and enough need for all of us to collaborate and work together. Would like now to hear from Empower, Azelio, and Chint as partners in this project. Their insights, what they bring to the table, what got them excited about the project, and their vision for the future. We'll start with Terje from Empower.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like, first of all, to say that after having spent more than 10 years in this industry, it's very rarely that you find initiatives that kind of combine the thinking from the energy world, the water environment, and farming, and trying to bring this together in a concept that actually unites the best knowledge, the best practice from these three sectors. And that is what I would like, first of all, to congratulate Muhammad and Engazaat for the work they have done in bringing this to this level. I'd like to push this and empower new energy. I'm not going to talk so much about that. Our company, we are a leading impact investor into renewables with focus on Africa. And we do, uniqueness of our model is that we invest in small and medium-sized solar and storage plants so we can scale up from the bottom up instead of just having to wait for big projects to materialize. But I would like to contextualize the challenge we have here. So if you look at Egypt, Africa, and the world, we know that, first of all, water is increasingly scarce, and we are more and more dependent on using groundwater for meeting the water needs. A huge need all over the world. Secondly, we also know that brackish water is increasingly it's not a problem not only in the Nile or the Margay regions. Rather, it is brackish water is a problem all over the world when you have coastal communities, and land reclamation is on top of the agenda, because just to feed the people of the world, the governments around the world now has a plan to reclaim land which have been left, and that land very often is suffering from brackish water. So what we do now is that there are, whether it's hundreds of millions or maybe, it's 200, 300, and 400, maybe you can discuss, but there are hundreds of millions of people and farmers who suffer from salinated water to actually address the food production challenge. The challenge, of course, is that you cannot deliver desalinated water the traditional way, because these are off-grid communities like we've seen here. We're not talking about just offering clean water. What we need to think more, conceptually around building microgrids in off-grid communities, so that the water challenge can be combined, can be solved in combination with the energy challenge and the food production challenge. So what does this, the way I see it is that one thing is that we can build and we will invest in a very efficient solar power plant, which will be built by Engazaat and financed and operated and managed by Ampone Energy. In addition to that, they have been bringing in Azelio, who has a very innovative alternative to batteries for storage, which makes it possible to replace diesel generators with storing solar energy so that they can be working 24/7. And then, of course, bringing all this together into with the desalination. And so what I see is that instead of just thinking about the desalination challenge as something top-down, building large desalination plant, we should see this as an example where actually desalination can be bottom-up. We can see hundreds of facilities like this in Egypt, in Africa, which, and in total, it will amount to trillions of US dollars, but it will not be one big investment, there will be hundreds of investments, step by step. And I think that is the innovation here, that it shows another way of reaching those targets than the conceptual thinking and planning in this area. So again, congratulations, and we are very happy to be able to be part of this, this initiative. Thank you.
So thank you. And I also want to really thank you, Mohammed, because we have done this together. It's been a long time and a very good collaboration. But sort of starting from the top, I think this project is really about two things. It is, first of all, we want to decarbonize agriculture, because agriculture today is roughly responsible for 24% of the CO2 emissions. At the same time, we want to enable profitable businesses that is located far out of the cities, because it's not only in the cities that we can make profitable business. We can show with this project that we can provide renewable energy 24/7 far out in the agriculture sector. And then shortly about Azelio. Azelio is an energy storage company, long duration energy storage. And as we all know, we have access to the sun and the wind for renewables, daytime or when the wind is blowing. But if you combine the Azelio solution with renewables, you create a 24/7 base load power all the 365 days a year with no CO2 emissions. And that is really what is happening in the SAVE2 project. We are creating a fully sustainable system in the desert that is only powered by solar energy. And this is unique. And the key here is really, first of all, the financing, because what we do is that we sell water as a service. And water as a service is sort of challenging the biggest hurdles for these off-takers, the farmers, because they have always a problem to do the capex investment, but they can sustain with a higher water or OPEX cost. And doing this, sort of creating profitable business in sort of not the cities, in the farm for the farmers. I think that is key for this project, and I'm so happy to be part of that. And this is the first project, and the great thing about it is that we are able to scale this. We can do the same kind of product over and over again, because now we have a business model, we have the financing, we can show that this is bankable, and then it's just repeat over and over again.
I want to ask you a question before, because that was the very interesting to hear about the storage of 13 hours, and it's very important for the future, because when I was talking about the 3,000 meter project we are doing, It's for us. It's the grid at night, and in the morning the solar. Having a storage 13, that means a triple my reducing of carbon emission. And instead of 5.5 ton per day, it will be triple. But the question is, I cannot for long term depend on grants or depend on incentives. I need it to be economical. Is the technology now, with the prices now, make it economically and feasible and bankable?
Our technology is today both commercially available. We have products in South Africa, we have products in the UAE, we have sold products to the US. So yes, we are there, we have a ready product. We are one of the first long duration energy storage companies that has a real sort of commercial products or commercial products.
Thank you, Jonas, very much. Mohammed, you'd like to add something?
I want just some very fast, quick reflections on the very intriguing points that were raised on the panel, and it's very interesting to resume discussion right after the panel, Hisham and Paki. It's absolutely amazing. Let me just reflect on how this alliance actually was created and on what foundations. Azelio is a publicly listed company in the Nasdaq, and it's a technology provider for long duration energy storage systems. And the relationship started into reselling the project, but the belief that we have built together all along the way had taken us to another business model. That instead of just selling technology, let's invest in a social impact. Okay? And that had developed all along not less than 3 years. That happened again with Empower for believing in the cause of what we're doing and putting in lots of resources and lots of activities to give on that. Chint, as a technology provider and as a tier one company in the world, had given us this necessary R&D support in the engineering process. So this did not come into life in 2 or 3 days. It took like 3 years to migrate to such a business model and to deliver it both on the technological side of things and on the financing side of things. The question of, and that very, very interesting point that Paki and Hisham had raised about efficiency of versus at the end of the social impact that we want to achieve. So efficiency is one side of the story, true, but the other side of the story is the return on this side of things. So the question we had in desalination, that no matter what we do in efficiency, there is a base cost at the end of the day that we cannot go down to make it sustainable. So the second question that we had to answer to be able to untap the model is, what is the cost of water? True, but what is the cost of water to produce what? Okay, that's second. And here we had this connection and communication with our agro partners of how to do it in an integrated format, where we had usually things go with a monocrop. We do like 2 crops. One that is strategic and sustain a long-term cash flow all along the process, and a second that is profit-oriented kind of crop, integrated to make economics out of the integrated farm itself. And to do that, to be able to absorb the higher cost of energy and cost of water. So that was second format of how to de-risk it, how to make it viable in terms of, and how to secure the sale for future contracts that makes sure that these investments we are putting into the game are sustainable and can be returned in a good format that can be replicated again and again and again. So these kind of questions, we believe we have kind of hovered on it in this very project that we are starting construction in January, Feb of next year. But we believe there is a lot of learning curve, Hisham, to take over to the next level and to do it on a bigger scale. So I guess that would need lots of collaboration in the coming period of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. We'll hear from Yassin about Chint's engagement in this alliance. Yassin?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Yassin from Chint, China. It's my great honor to be here. Thanks for Mohammed's invitation. And I'm very happy to meet gentlemen and ladies, especially Mr. Hisham. I have been in Egypt more than 11 years, and I heard your name since I was young. So it's my great pleasure. I think our partners today already explained the meaning of this project, which has far-reaching impact on the environmental protection, the food security, and the water resource utilization. Chint as a smart solution provider, in addition to supply the advanced technology and the reliable products, we are also focusing on the environmental protection and the construction of the green factories, as well as the management of the green supply chains. This year, Chint was named on the candidates list of United Nations Global Compact and the year 2021 SDG Good Practices Award. Also, China Ministry of Industry and Information Technology announced a list of the green manufacturing in 2021. Chint is the first domestic-funded company in the industry to win 3 national awards of green factory, green design product, and the green supply chain management. Also in Egypt, I want to mention something that we are also fortunate to participate in supporting the Egypt national development project, such as Haya Kalim project. You will easy to find Chint there. We have many partners there, and most of the Kushk is using Chint components inside. Also, the Egypt the first the LRT, the electricity train, by using Chint all low voltage, medium voltage, and the busway solution there. Also, we have the chance to participate in the construction of the 165 megawatts solar project in Aswan Benban Solar Park, and also lead the construction of the largest PV rooftop single power generation in Jushi fiberglass factory, which located in Swiss Tida industry zone, which invested by Chinese. The above mentioned helps us to have opportunity to be one of the partners of this strategic project with Engazaat, with all our guys. As a technology and equipment partner, what we can ensure is to provide the most advanced new energy solutions, not only solar modules, but also transmission and distribution equipment. The innovative model of this project will make a great contribution to the development of the green agriculture in Egypt. We are honored to be part of this project and more similar projects in future. We share a common vision, and I'm 100% confident that it will be done successfully. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Yassin, and thanks again, Jonas and Terje. And the final piece of the puzzle is the Center of Excellence for Water's engagement in this project. And we'll hear from Dr. Essam Shaban, Chief of Board.
You know, Mohammed, that I have several hats in this collaboration, and I have also a different angle how I see the project, and you know also that I must be one of the happiest guys today for this project, since we met, let's say, 4 years ago, while we were talking about engagement with Mohammed in energy projects, and I asked him for what you will use the energy. We will use the energy for water pumping. Okay, for what you will use the water, so we'll use the water in agriculture. So it came to me like a present, because myself, by education, is agricultural engineer, but by specialization, I am a water and energy engineer by practice and by higher education afterwards. So my work was always between how to produce water from desalination by renewable energies for agriculture. So we came together like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to have to see this project upscaled. My background is academic. I started from the master's degree doing some simulation on the computer about how renewable energies will play with desalination systems. Realized this project in the PhD with a small system that was realized actually. And I did my first steps in economics analysis for this system. So now I must be very happy to see this upscale to this level. And I always say that in this project, in this very well integrated project, there is always something that you can contribute and something to learn. So I am happy for that. So I know something about the project, but I always learning every day from this project. This project is supported by the Center of Excellence for Water, of which I am the chief of party. After 2 years that I have been a technical advisor of the Center of Excellence, we have been talking. Mohammed is a very good partner in this Center of Excellence for Water, and AUC also, as an entity, will be supporting the project for the social and environmental studies that the project will need, and of course any technical support that the project will need from the stakeholders of 5 Egyptian universities and 5 American universities, 3 ministries, and many other research institutes in Egypt under the umbrella of the Center of Excellence for Water. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Essam, and thanks to all our panelists. I would like to open the floor for a Q&A. So if anyone has a comment, reflection, or question, you're more than welcome. Jeremy Hopkins, representative UNICEF to Egypt.
Thank you very much. And this is a little bit beyond UNICEF's normal work, but we are active in the water sector. Our focus is on connecting vulnerable households to water, which we're doing actually in Haya Karima villages and in rural areas. But the conversation is fascinating. I think it's interesting that you pointed out the 80% of water which is used for agricultural purposes, and the global benchmark is 70%, so already over. So any means of looking for efficiencies to reduce the amount of water spent on agriculture is very welcome. My question, though, is bouncing a little bit off Mr. El-Khazindar's comment about the people who are living. Let's say you didn't say it, but they're living close to the poverty line. We have 30 million people under the poverty line in Egypt, and 56 million if you include the near poor. And I would just be, and I'm asking this from an innocent place because it's the government's primary responsibility to work with the very poorest households. But does the business model that you're presenting today allow for inclusion of people who cannot pay and will never be able to, more or less, to pay? I know there's this get it now and pay later, but that suggests some degree of wealth, let's say. But what about the people who simply cannot afford it?
Thank you, Jeremy. Hisham?
You want to start first? I think it's a very pertinent question, and again, I think the challenge, if we want to move people from subsistence farming to profitable farming, revolves around scale and efficiency fundamentally, and I think the project led by Mohammed, what it achieves is it solves that challenge of scale and efficiency for one key piece of the agricultural process, which is the irrigation side. The contention that I was trying to make was particularly for the small micro farmers. as opposed to the medium and larger ones. I think the onus on social entrepreneurs, or large groups that want to have a positive impact, is to find, is to support and champion projects such as this one, but also figure out the other pieces of the puzzle around the scalability and efficiency, particularly when it comes to know-how, productivity, and greater supply chain efficiency. Okay? So, in my view, if you don't solve these other pieces, then you've enhanced the economics of the farmer. But the question is, have you enhanced them sufficiently, for the impact to be transformational as it ought to be over the medium and long term? And the first part around irrigation and affordable water in itself seemed unsurmountable, but yet I think Engazaat have found a formula, gotten the right partners where inshallah they've gotten this to work. And again, the proof is in the pudding, and is over the sustainability of the project over a long period of time. But I think what we've seen today is very, very inspiring. So just as this complex piece was solved, I think that with the combination of the right partners and the right incentives, the other pieces, namely the supply chain piece, so as to get enough of the value chain in the small farmers' hands, and the efficiency and productivity know-how transmission piece to get the farmer that owns one cow as opposed to 15,000 cows to still have that cow produce north of 30 kilos a day as opposed to 15 kilos a day. So solving those pieces is going to be critical.
Always inspiring, Hisham. Let me just reflect on this question, because that has been always an ongoing discussion on our table of what is the next step. How can we enhance this impact? How can to take it more to the grassroots? But that has to happen sustainably, in terms of financially sustainably as well, to be able to be resilient enough to sustain longer period of time and to take away all the subsidy shadows that we've been living into long ago. And I would capitalize on what Hisham is just saying right now. Is answer in our viewpoint, it is about, if we have democratization of sustainable agriculture as an end objective, that would definitely need collaboration. Collaboration between the stakeholders to enable economies of scale, yet to transfer the value from the hands to those who can, to those who deserve. And this is through the business model that we're trying to do. And to do that, we believe collaboration can happen through many formats, one of which is PPP structures. PPP structures in the private-public partnerships. And in that, we envisioned the next big thing is simply because most of the agro developments is happening either there's a big developer that is putting all his things on the ground, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows what his economics are all about and stuff. And there is also the small farmer who really cannot do it now with the rising subsidy and stuff like that. So we believe that the right combination, we have a real estate developer, we have an industrial developer, but we don't really have an agro developer. And through agro development, we've invested in different clusters. There is the big scale kind of developments that has to be integrated in one way or another with the medium size, and integrated to the small size of things. And this kind of development is all integrated in a way that it delivers the value chain in a smooth and seamless format. The second thing is that to be able to do it, we have to have anchors of development. Most of agro developments in Egypt is happening remotely in the desert. Most big investors who can actually take this burden of taming the desert into production. But when you do this and put lands available for small and medium size, they stumble because actually we've been doing agriculture for 3,000 years. But for the first time ever, we're facing this kind of ecology in the desert. So this accumulative know-how of farming in Egypt that has been for thousands of years is not really, it has to be updated. Let me stick to the second generation of doing things. So this integration has to happen. We have to have these anchors of developments like academic research institutions on the ground, give the right international capacities to those guys, and then it has to be having two kind of streams. One that is completely social, one that's completely into the direction of the small farms who can afford, but another that's very much important has to be payable with a good money that kind of return these kinds of investments. This kind of mix has to happen, and we have to work together, to collaborate together to make it happen and to enable it in the right format. So that's basically our insight on it.
I mean, what you're really asking is sort of getting the water for free, and the only way, as I can see that, is if we really put a real high value on the carbon credits. Because if you have high value on carbon and the reduction of carbon that we do with these kind of projects, and you have the Article 6, where the sort of countries can trade carbon credits, or we can even maybe trade it with certain organizations that are willing to buy. Hello? Yeah? Is it working? Okay. Then there is possibility to sort of get free water, but you need some kind of mechanism that sort of really puts a price, the real price, on the carbon reduction. That is my.
Thank you, Jonas, and thanks, Jeremy, for this insightful question. Do we have any other questions or comments from the audience? Panel, any thoughts, final words, reflections? Mohammed?
I know I took too much, but I'm sorry. I would want to actually highlight what Dr. Essam was just saying before we make closing remarks, is that the AUC has been so much supporting to us in this endeavor, actually. Center of Excellence is an amazing format where it has like, hello? Is this working? Is it? Yeah. So this is the kind of platforms where we've been. Yeah. This is the kind of formats we've been searching for to enable this kind of model from the environmental and social side of things, including what Jonas is just saying, is how to generate revenue streams to be able to compensate and to deliver the social value at the end. So this kind of format, we're having institutions, academic institutions of international component and local knowledge on the ground, and USAID funded program pushing this forward to the front, side by side, to the business and entrepreneurship, to the big investments, to the government. We believe this is the way out. This is how we take this unbelievably sophisticated challenge of food security, water security, unemployment, to a huge opportunity for Egypt in the coming years and towards Africa as well. We believe this opportunity is there and it's dramatic. All what we need to do is to see each other, sit like we're sitting now, discuss, and find a way forward. So I want to thank everyone for making it that amazingly interesting. Hisham, Paki, Jonas, Terje, Dr. Essam, and Yassin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohammed. Just one final comment from Terje.
Trying to respond to that question about how to finance this, because of course it's correct that why should farmers who have been using surface water for free suddenly start paying for water that this will require? Well, there are different ways to get around this. If this can, of course, or at least reduce that burden, carbon credits is mentioned as one opportunity, but I'd also mentioned that there is another way of funding parts of this is relating to this adaptation funding for climate change. We do know that in many coastal areas, increasing salination is a result also of flooding, which is increasing with climate change. So I think when this has been demonstrated, there will be different ways to look for financing. Carbon credits, adaptation funds, other infrastructure funding, which can help bring this about. But I think the key still is that the farmer will get more value for his crops, for his or her crops. So there is should be an increasing willingness from the user side to pay for this because it actually brings a better living. So here, like everything else, I think it's going to be a partnership with climate finance, adaptation finance, and finance from the user side.
Thank you very much, Terje, and thanks again to the panel. I think this project is a perfect example of what a truly complementary partnership can do and set a precedent for such a project, hopefully being a model for more improvement in the future. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you all today and to moderate this session. Thanks again to the panelists, Dr. Essam, Terje, Jonas, Hisham, Pakinam, Mohammed, and Yassin. And thank you all for being with us today. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.